Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Wow, do I need a haircut? Crikey. Stupid shaggy yada. Anyway, tonight we want to take time to thank Patriot Patch Company for their bandwidth sponsorship and show off the count. That's right, Count Draco. That is the patch of the month. Obviously, you can see I don't have a hat, so he's not getting put on the hat tonight, but that's the actual patch. If my freaking camera will focus, there we go. So, that is your October patch of the month. From the gang over at Patriot Patch Company. Thanks, Jake and Ryan. Excellent product once again. So, and that's patriotpatch.co for those of you who are wondering what their web address is. Also want to take time to thank Sean and the gang over at FRN. That's Firearms Radio Network. Firearmsradio.tv. Check out all the podcasts. Sean seems to be adding new ones all the time. It's too hard to keep up because I'm like 4 months behind on most of my podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis. So, at any rate, but yeah, check out firearmsradio.tv. There's a little bit of something for everybody. So, what's everybody been doing? Jason?
Huh. Oh, you want to know what I've been doing in guns and reloading? Bastard. Talk with Dusty. He's still pushing me towards the 300 PRC. And our other listener, asshole, Chris Sharp, he's been sending me articles about 300 PRC. So I'm assuming I'm buying a 300 PRC shortly.
What is it? What is it? 300 PRC the equivalent of, Jason?
Equivalent of, I couldn't really tell you, Jim.
Is it 300 Magnum? Is it 300 Blackout? 300 Win Mag?
No, it's more Win Mag. So like 212 grain, 2,800 feet per second, roughly.
Ooh, that'll leave a mark.
Spicy. It'll put a schmack on something.
Yeah, that heavy bullet.
Anyway, so.
Well, friend of the show, Phil Massaro, back when they launched the PRC, wrote up an article in American Hunter comparing it exactly to our beloved 300 Win Mag. And so, keep in mind, this is right as they launched it. So, 300 PRC is based on the beltless 375 Ruger. It's Alpha Sound design. This one's a bit different, as the goal with the 300 PRC is to be able to maintain case capacity while loading the sleek, long ogive bullets. Overall length of 2.58 inches, case head of 532, standard Holland Magnum case dimensions. Plenty of capacity. So, and then the cartridge overall length between 3.575 and 3.7. Magnum length receiver, obviously. So, so the first loads from Hornady were pretty hot. And you're talking 300 Weatherby mag range. So, it was 30-degree shoulder, which aids in chamber alignment and feeding from a box magazine. It's fixed box. So they built it for hunting. Typically, a precision rifle wouldn't necessarily, you wouldn't be necessarily looking at those type of thing. The chamber you would be, but not feeding from the box magazine. Fixed box anyway. So a 225 grain ELD match, muzzle velocity of 2810, and a 212 grain ELDX muzzle velocity of 2860. So, so the 225, and it's they're using high ballistic coefficient bullets. So you're talking a G1 of 777 for the 225 grain ELD match, and a G1 score of 673 for the 212 ELDX. So that is seriously awesome ballistic coefficient. So,
Yes, sir.
They are so long that they're not actually, you can't actually seat them in a 300 Win Mag case because they won't fit a standard box magazine. So, I know talking to Robin at SHOT, and again, Robin Sharpless from Reading, talking to him at SHOT, and then we were talking again a bit at our NRA about it, and it's going to have staying power. Out of the couple of new cartridges, especially for hunting that then can be turned around and used for long distance, he was pretty confident that they were going to be around for a while. So Sharp just said in the previously mentioned Sharp just said in the chat, the new A-tip bullet from Hornady performs extremely well in the 300 PRC. Unofficial word from Hornady at SHOT was that was one of the reasons that bullet was built in the first place. So, you know, it's not going to be like 300 Win will go away. You know, I mean, it's not going to happen. That's like people saying the odd 6 is going to go away or the 308 is going to go away. So, but Hornady made such a nice cartridge. Hornady made it, by the way, the 300 PRC. The DoD actually ordered some Barracks chambered in 300 PRC. So if that says anything about the cartridge. But yeah, just phenomenal. Okay, I'm done talking, Jason. Now back to your story.
Okay. And so I met up with Dusty and had lunch with him. He brought me my brass I bought from him. I bought some Peterson 6.5 Creed off of him. And nice tripod for my spotting scope. I think that was about it for me.
He didn't bring your kneeler?
He is still waiting on parts, but he mentioned something about another company came out with a better part. I'm not exactly sure what he was talking about. I forget. But he hasn't forgotten me. He's working on it. So, Phil, how was band camp?
Band camp was fun. Come on, Alec.
Did you play your instrument?
Oh,
No, prepper camp was good. Was a good time. Myself and Nick DeVrados from Red Eye Reloading got together, taught the how to reload ammunition class for the first time up at that event, and I think we had like 50 people max seating. So I mean, we had one of the smaller areas, and it was the first time the class had ever been taught there, so we really didn't know what the turnout was going to be. I think we wound up with 30 people each on Friday and Saturday, and about 15 on Sunday, which I wasn't really brokenhearted about. Sunday's usually a pretty thin crowd because most people get up first thing Sunday morning and they start heading out to head home. But all in all, 75 people got the spiel on why and the how they should start reloading their own ammo, and lots of really enthusiastic questions were asked. There was once or twice we almost went clean over our time block because there were so many questions. We had people like stacked up 4 and 5 deep after the presentation, still wanting to talk to us about reloading. So it was a good time. I can't complain. And with any luck, we'll have some of those people turning up among the listenership, because I made a point of telling every last one of them, if you need a resource for more information, you need to check in the reloading room. You need to check into the MeWe the MeWe group. You need to check into the reloading podcast. So hopefully I managed to make a dent there. But strictly based on enthusiasm, I was very impressed by it. Questions,
As I've
comments,
said many
awkward
times.
silence?
Yeah, my comment, Phil, is the fact that I've always said that reloading is and should be a prepping skill. But I heard what you said. I haven't forgotten that some people don't believe that. They just stockpile factory ammo.
Well, I mean, it takes all kinds. There's all kinds of different methodologies.
Oh yeah.
But the things that I really hammered on were the fact that, tongue in cheek, you can save money reloading, but we can all admit there's usually a cost per round savings to be had over a comparable factory round. But the other thing I really hammered on was the fact that, once you get away from just making plinkers to shove into the berm and you start looking at making specialty rounds or reloading for cartridges that aren't readily available on the store shelves anymore. I mean, and I made a point of asking this at every presentation. I was never disappointed. There was always at least one, usually 3 or 4 people in the audience who had perfectly good old firearms in really odd cartridges that you couldn't buy ammunition for them anymore. Or you couldn't get it readily. And I was like, okay, but the brass is comparable to something else, right? Like you could fire for them. And they were like, well, probably. And I'm like, well, then you can still use that firearm. So I gave everybody the sell and told them what I thought the benefits were. And I thought we won a lot of people over. I also got to spend the weekend hanging out with Nick DeVrados from Red Eye Reloading. We ought to look at having him on the show sometime, because I was telling y'all while I was up there, because he deals in a lot of estate sales, and he picks up a lot of old, off the beaten path, unusual reloading equipment. And some of the presses he has personally owned and used to reload ammo, I've only ever heard of. I've never even seen them. And it's very interesting. Like some of the history of reloading that he's familiar with, because he's actually he's found these old presses. But that's all I did in Guns and Reloading for the last 2 weeks. Tried to teach 75 people the black arts of reloading, or at least on a basic level, to get them interested.
Well, some folks make it rather arcane.
Well, everything seems like voodoo until you know how it works.
Exactly.
Put it that way. Everything we know is science was once witchcraft. So that's why once we got people over the hump of like the benefits, that's why we went to try to demonstrate the process and show people this is not that hard. You can do this. I even had a picture of my daughter when she was 4 years old pulling on a press handle, and I'm like, a 4-year-old girl can pull a press handle hard enough to reload ammo. Everybody here can do it.
Mm-hmm. Phil, if you would, zip me that photo. Not so much for your child, but so much of the 4-year-old pulling a press handle and resizing probably 9mm 223 ammo. But that's an important point. I got something. I have a good place to put that in a reloading group, if you don't mind. If you'd rather not, I understand.
I don't have an issue with that. It's probably already on Facebook or something somewhere, but I'll hunt it down and get it to you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Who's next up?
Travis.
Travis.
Run for it, buddy.
Okay, so I'm switching my press over to do 9mm. So I processed probably roughly 2,000 pieces of 9mm brass. Got that all tumbled and cleaned, ready to start reloading it. I did go ahead and reload 400 or so rounds with some new powder that I'm trying. See, I did order the cheaper funnel we talked about several podcasts ago, the Lyman funnel kit. I haven't tried it out yet. I just barely got that. Talking with one of our beloved listeners in finishing up getting parts ordered for the 2011 I'm working on. So that's going to be fun to get all that stuff in and get that put back together.
Is that your second handgun or that you built? Is that the second handgun you built, or is it first?
It's still the same one.
Okay.
I did the slide and the barrel, and I just been waiting. So now I got the 3 shopping carts filled on 3 different websites from all the parts I get a purchase now for that. The most exciting news for me is I ordered the Mark 7 Pro for the 1050. So I should get that in a couple weeks. And
well, now what is that? Go ahead.
Do you know what it is, Jim, or you have no idea what that is?
I believe it's a motorization kit of some kind.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
No, you're right. It's Mark 7. It's their auto drive. You have to go to their website and get pictures and stuff of it, but it's the auto drive. It's like basically computer controlled. You can control every aspect of your press.
Ooh.
So I'll be able to load, what is it, roughly 2,400-ish rounds an hour now, and process about 3,600 rounds of brass. Like I say, the nice thing is you can set all your parameters. Yeah, you can set all your parameters and your dwell time and everything. So when I'm running my trimmer, I can have the dwell time hang out on the downstroke a little bit, and I'm pretty excited to get that in.
Who would have thunk it? Jason, do you even know what CNC stands for? Computer Numerical Controlled. Anyway, who'd have thunk it? A CNC reloading machine. Who'd have thunk it? Us old dinosaurs.
You should go over, Jim. Like I said, this is just Mark 7 started off making an auto drive for a 1050. They got one for a 650. Then they just decided that they're making the auto drives for the Dillon. They might as well make their own press. So I think you seen a video not too long ago, or I seen you talking to somebody. They've got their own presses now. So they got the Evolution, which is a very nice. That's what I originally wanted. It's you'd have to see pictures of it, but it's all where the Dillon 1050 looks like it's all cast, and then gone through and machined. The Mark 7, it looks like it's all just billet aluminum. It's a beautiful looking machine. It's got so many attachments to it. It's about a $5,000 press. Then they got the really nice one is the Revolution, and it's made mostly for commercial stuff, but it's pretty nice setup to go and look at videos of that. I think Gavin Tube just did some videos with Mark 7 / Lyman on the Mark 7 auto drives on one of his previous videos. You can go look at. So anyway.
Impressive. Very
Mike,
impressive.
Did you say what you did, Mike?
Mike's not feeling good again.
Yeah, I didn't really do much. So.
Thank you, Phil. Me personally, what I did basically is just a little bit, about 300 rounds of brass prep for the last couple weeks, or last week, I should say. Who's this?
Oh, sorry guys, it's me.
Oh, hi. Well, hello, stranger. You're just in time to tell us what you did in Guns Reloading.
Oh, well, I had some new ammo that I got, my Tiffany Blue. I reloaded a bunch of those and lost track of time.
By the way, gentlemen, please meet Sharanda Burtz. Meet Phil, the guy with the beard, and Nick shaking his head. Thank you with a hand up. And that's Travis over there in the red hoodie. Meet Sharanda
Hi,
Burtz,
guys.
gents.
How you doing,
Hello.
man? I was catching up on the episode you were on today at work, actually.
Yeah, I did too. I listened to it today also.
Did it cause head shaking moment?
Where Jim was trying to coax you into saying you used coffee cans. So that's his preferred storage.
Oh yeah, I don't drink coffee.
Oh, well,
that
that was weak. That was weak. Anyway, so you were saying about your Tiffany Blue?
Yeah, I did get some Tiffany Blue rounds, so I loaded it. I think about 1,000 of those yesterday and today. And I went pheasant hunting this past weekend, so I didn't realize I was that old. I'm still a little tired from that too.
Pheasant hunting.
Yes.
And did you bring down any pheasants? Did you harvest any game?
Yeah, I had the biggest bird out. You know, everybody comments, your bird was bigger. And I'm like, well, I'm bigger. I had to have more meat.
Well, I did. I have to be honest with you. I did see the plumage of the bird's tail. It looked very nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna have him send it to a taxidermist. Thank you.
Impressive. Impressive. Anyway.
Oops, I don't know what I clicked on, but let me cancel. There we go.
You're still here.
Okay.
No, we're just we're one of those awkward pause moments. That's all.
I was busy coughing.
Mm.
So, no real cartridge corner tonight. So we'll bring that back next week. But
I thought you covered it rather well with the 300 PRC discussion, Mike.
oh no, there's way more information on that cartridge than what I gave. So, all right, gang. So, Phil, what were some of the old myths that you dispelled when you were at prepper camp?
Well, two big ones came up, and we had actually two of them came up at every single time I taught the class. One of them popped up kind of out of nowhere, and I had to roll with the punches. But someone invariably brought up, the old standby about how if you use your hand loads for defensive use, you're going to be prosecuted for it, which we've debated that backwards and forwards on this show before and everywhere else. And it's like I told everybody in the class, I'm like, I've never been able to find a court case where that's actually happened. So if somebody says they want to be the test case, I get it, but I haven't seen it. There's no precedent for it. There are some very respectable people who hold that opinion, and I can't fault them for it, but I don't deal in maybes. And the other thing I point out was, I'm like, we're at prepper camp. Ostensibly, if I have to crack up on one of the cans of ammo, things have gotten really bad, and I don't really care if the ammo is store-bought or hand-loaded at that point.
Amen.
And the other thing, And the other thing, and this is something that I didn't even realize this was a myth, but apparently it's floating around out there. But someone actually stated that, like, across the board, broad spectrum, that factory ammo was consistently more reliable than hand-loaded ammo, which I really had to kind of shake my head at, because I'm like, has anybody ever had a case of Winchester white box with, like, the bullet loaded upside down, or the case neck smashed, or the primer upside down? I mean, hand-loaded ammo is as reliable as you make it. So if you make bad ammo, you get bad ammo. But if you make good ammo, you have good ammo. So I don't know. And then, of course, there was that one person that pegged me dead rights and asked me, was there any one cartridge I would never reload for? And I was like, if there is one, it'd be 7.62x39, just because brass is so freaking hard to get a hold of. But even that said, I'm planning on it. So, but I think he was asking more from a cost perspective. Like, where's the financial break-even point? Because a lot of guys look at the cost savings on 9mm versus what you can go buy for in bulk right now, and that cost is getting narrower and narrower by the day. But
Bill, just shoot a 300 blackout. It's the American AK.
I can just barely make out what you're saying, Travis.
Travis,
Yeah,
that was excellent, awesome, and severely powerful. We just can't imagine how important that was that you just said. Now, next time, if we could only hear it.
You guys really can't hear me, huh?
Sorry. You're still quiet,
No.
Travis.
You're like,
You can't hear me?
that's a little better, but
Are you
it sounds
kidding
like
me?
you're chewing on the microphone.
Adjust your settings.
I heard something about 300 blackout, the American 7.62x39. Yeah, actually, myself and a friend of mine have had a very spirited debate about that, specifically because, like, when you start comparing supersonic 300 blackout in about the same bullet weight ranges that you typically get in 7.62x39, you start seeing almost the same charge weights for the same powders. So the point I made was the 7.62x39 and supersonic 300 blackout are kissing cousins at a minimum, based on the reloading data.
Yeah. Hey, is this any better?
That is a lot better, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd shoot the 300 blackout, and I call it the American AK because I cast for it, make my own brass for it. So I shoot it for really cheap.
Yeah. And that's kind of the reason why I got away from my AK being a home defense gun, was just because, not to be total, put my tinfoil hat on for just one moment, but it literally take no congressional oversight to shut down ammo imports to this country. So the fact that you could completely pinch off the ammunition supply for one or two key cartridges with an executive order makes me nervous, which is why I don't have an AK as a home defense gun anymore.
Anybody
I have
who
ARs. Huh?
Sorry, I was going to say, anybody who doesn't think that can happen, 7N6.
Go back even further.
Yeah.
Norinco.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody remember why we can't get steel case 7 or a steel core 7.62x39 more? Because it's armor piercing. Anyway, this is the apolitical reloading show, so I'm not going to debate libertarian political ideals on the show.
Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Even
Mike.
though I agree with you. Even though I agree
Sorry,
with you,
Jeff.
Phil, I thank you for not getting too political. This is more about education.
Yep. But yeah, I mean,
Sorry, Phil. Didn't mean to be rude.
no, you're good. But like I said, those were some of the big myths I tried to knock down, because everybody's heard them, and they still continue to spin around the water cooler and the reloading bench. And I didn't want somebody to have like a false impression of that, cloud their decision to get into reloading. And while I wouldn't call it a myth, we also, I mean, honestly, some of the questions we got hurled like took us in totally different directions for the class, and it was really encouraging because we had people asking us like, about like, do you have to trim? Do you not have to trim? And then we start getting into the differences between rifle and pistol brass prep. And I threw in there, I trim my revolver brass because it gives you a more consistent roll crimp. And I mean, it was like every 5 minutes we wound up chasing a rabbit down a hole because somebody asked a really good question that we couldn't pass up. But that's also what happens when you have two experienced reloaders standing in front of a group of neophytes, and there is no such thing as a dumb question. But
That's a fact. I'll take offense on that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I enjoyed my time thoroughly, if for no other reason than the fact that, y'all continue to put it out there front and center that this show has to cater to the new guys. It has to cater to the people that are just starting. It has to be a welcoming environment. We have to bring people into this. And that's why I went to prepper camp and did it, because I didn't make a dime on the trip, didn't sell anything. The only reason I went there was to hang out with some old friends and try to teach people how to reload.
So you drove from the New Orleans region.
Yep. Drove from Southeast Louisiana up to Saluda, North Carolina, best part of 10 and a half hours one way.
That's where, out by Asheville?
Southeast of Asheville. As a matter of fact, if you go straight from Asheville to Greenville, South Carolina, you'll run within miles of Saluda.
Sharenda, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just curious what reloading machine you took with you up to prepper camp.
Well, here's the thing of it. We had debated back and forth on trying to do a live reloading demonstration in front of the class, but we kind of dropped the idea just because it was going to be very difficult to demonstrate that for a class. So what we actually did was Nick videoed himself doing the reloading process on, I want to say, was it a Lyman T-Mag? I know it was a 4-hole manual index turret press, but it wasn't a Redding. I don't think it was a Lee. I think it might have been a Lyman.
Was it red?
No, it was gray.
Huh.
Would that maybe be like an old Pacific?
No, you say it was a turret press with a center hub, correct? Not a rotating hub like on a lead press.
Nope. It had a traditional center mounted hub, kind of like a Redding, but it was not a Redding.
Okay.
Or if it was a Redding, it'd been repainted, because I know Redding stuff is all green and this was like gray. I don't know though. Nick has such a collection of like old antique reloading machines that are all still in perfect working condition. He could have been loading on anything. But like I said,
the logistics of trying to take a reloading press and set up and just to make some dummy rounds, because everyone in the class is going to want to make a couple dummy rounds to go home.
Yeah, and the other problem we ran into logistically was we were going to try to set up a reloading bench in the vendors area to allow people to come in and actually like make dummy rounds that we would just take back apart and reuse the components throughout the weekend, just so people could get a feel for the process. But we ran into some issues with Nick being permitted to park his RV in close enough proximity to the vendors area that we could actually move equipment back and forth. So we kind of had to toss that idea at the last minute, which, I mean, honestly, for a first attempt at prepper camp, maybe next year we'll try to have our stuff a little better lined up and try to do a live reloading demonstration in the vendors area. This year was kind of just feel it out, see what the interest was, and deliver kind of the best intellectual value for money we could, if that's a good way to put it.
Well, you never know. You might have actually got a few people interested enough to start reloading.
Based on the questions, I'd venture to say yeah, probably. Because I mean, like I said, the Saturday afternoon when I was packing up, I had 4 people in a line waiting to ask me questions, and Nick had 4 more on the other side of the seating area pegging him with questions. So I mean, there was tons and tons of interest. And the impression I got from the event organizers was that it was a subject that had been brought up many times in the past about interest in reloading and in having that class, but no one affiliated with Prepper Camp had that knowledge until I turned up.
Let me ask you guys a question, all of you. Now, remember, we're talking about to the new reloader, the untried, the untested person about half scared to death to reload their own ammo. How much do you think you would have to spend to start reloading? At a minimum, I'm saying, can we do it for $100? Can we do it for $150, $200 to actually load up one box of ammo, whether it's handgun or rifle?
If you're talking about using that little Lee kit that has the dies you tap together with a hammer, easily, I'd say easily under 100.
Well, that's what I think. I think those go for. Well, I guess we should include the components. You know,
you can even get one of those cheaper Lee, just the C-frame ones for $30.
Like the breech lock, I think is what they call that one. It's
the cast aluminum one. It's pretty cheap. I've seen those for like literally $20-25 on Amazon. Get you one little box of primers of 100 for $350. Get you one pound of powder, or go in with somebody that has got one. So you can figure out the powder. That's going to be probably the powder and the projectile is going to be your two main costs. How many you buy, if you can bum some off of somebody to try them out, I think you could definitely do it for under 100.
And if 100 is pushed,
we haven't covered very much.
If you can go to somebody's house that has the reloading equipment, then for sure under 100, because then you just buy your own components and go over there and load up on their equipment.
I think the price that Nick and I kind of centered on was like in the 150 to 200 range, and in that price range, we were really talking about like a Lee Challenger instead of a breech lock. One of the O style presses that is going to hold up longer and is going to provide better service, is better able to handle like large rifle rounds versus a breech lock, which is really marginal for some of your bigger rifle rounds, in my opinion. And being able to buy like a brick of primers and a pound of powder, and not just trying to make a box of ammo, but make like a reasonable amount. But our point of view was like, if 150 to $200 is what it takes to get into this, and you can produce this ammo at this cost differential, then that's a reasonable buy-in for a first timer to get their feet wet. And the other thing we pointed out was, if you are reloading one of these odd cartridges off the beaten path, or if you're reloading something that is difficult to get in this country, or is very European, or is just very expensive, you get to a point where it doesn't matter what it costs. If you want to shoot that cartridge, you're going to reload it. I mean, the whole reason my father dove in face first and bought his first reloading press was because 44 Magnum is too daggum much fun to shoot and too daggum expensive to shoot, to buy factory ammo.
So there's just one example.
Back up a little bit.
If you go to the store, I'm holding up a box of a 7mm 08.
Ooh, yeah.
One box of 20, and this was a couple years ago, $43.75 for 20.
Holy jeez.
Bucks a hit.
Now, to be fair, that's a premium box.
True.
Yeah,
This is all Nosler trophy grade. But we can make equivalent to that.
Right.
you bet.
So what they were talking about earlier with the Lee thing is the Lee loader.
I can never remember the name of it, but yes.
So what this is this is literally anywhere. I just looked on Amazon quick because I wanted to be able to look at a lot of different things quickly. $28 to $40, depending on what caliber you want. Literally, if you got your brass for free, and you were able to split powder with somebody, you could literally load a box of 20 for under $50. So
in that same sentence, though, if you're able to split the powder with somebody, that person you're splitting the powder with more than likely has the equipment that you could go and use their stuff to load up some ammo with.
Yeah, and then you'd just be looking at dies, maybe.
Right, because
Dies.
I know there's one somebody on this panel right now that does that with her 223 ammo.
Sharenda, you use lead loader or lead?
Yeah, that would be me.
Well, he said
Sure,
she. I
even
kind of
I
narrowed it down.
Yeah,
Yeah, it did, but even I didn't know that.
yeah.
That's
No,
interesting.
I use because I don't have a single stage yet. I know I could do it on my Dylan. I go over to a friend's house and use her husband's single stage. He has a rock chucker, and then I have friends that shoot 223s that aren't reloading, so they bring me out their cases. So I started out winning.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then the women in my ladies group, I definitely don't mind taking my machine because I have my machine set up where I can take it and put it in my car, and I'll go over to their house and we'll have a reloading party.
My kind of people.
That's what it. Yep. Amen.
I used to do that with casting. We'd all 3 or 4 of us would get together and have a casting party where we'd all take our equipment over and do the same type of thing.
Yeah, to me, it was kind of like, dealing with firearms. You know, everything looks good, but you don't know if you're going to like it until you try it out. So I definitely don't mind sharing my equipment.
Yeah, it's very nice to find a mentor or just somebody of common interest where you could possibly get together with them. Let's say if you buy a pound of powder, roughly $30. If it doesn't work out for you, you could give that to your friend you're with. They could possibly use it, and you can go back and forth and share stuff. And yeah, if a new reloader gets reloading something, they might not know that they're not doing something correctly and think that they're doing it the right way, where if they're with somebody else, it's kind of a check and balance type of thing.
Definitely.
I'm sure Phil was told all the time by his dad how he was doing something wrong his whole life growing up.
Now, see that this is actually the funny story. My father when I dove into reloading, he actually hadn't pulled a reloading press in probably 40 years. So, I mean, I'm sure he kind of remembered the ins and outs of it, but I wouldn't characterize him as being an experienced reloader in terms of the fact that he hadn't done a ton of reloading before, and it was a very long time ago. Before recently, when we both got presses and kind of dove in whole hog. But to toot y'all's horn, not yours, Travis, because to heck with you. Mostly, Jim and Mike and Jason, these are the guys that mentored me because I didn't really have anybody that knew reloading very well to mentor me. I got in the reloading room and started asking really stupid, noobish questions and reading the instructions and measure twice, cut once. And I mean, I did all the things these guys say to do and not to do. And that's how I learned to reload. So I didn't have that hands-on, like one-on-one, make sure I'm not going to blow my fingertips off. I had these guys and many dozens of people in the reloading room that openly shared information with me and answered questions and never passed judgment and never were snarky about it. They just said, hey, he's new. He needs to know. So that's been a brown nosing for y'all in the community y'all created, because I didn't have anybody to teach me how to reload. It was y'all and instruction manuals.
Same here. That's how I met Jim.
Yep. And I still have 10 fingers and 2 eyeballs, so it worked.
But you ain't got no brain, Phil.
I didn't have any to begin with, so
No hair.
No, I even
Oh,
that if they're even thinking, maybe considering reloading, save your breath. And if you decide you don't want to, just give it to me.
Oh Lord. I'm gonna tell you now, the first 6 months I was reloading, I was kicking myself for all the 45 ACP brass I left on gun ranges over the years. Oh, I was so mad at myself.
Why do you care about 45 ACP? You like 9mm.
because I have a 45 ACP, and before I was reloading for 9, I was reloading for 45. And I was buying range brass from a friend of mine in the next town over, like hundreds and thousands of cases, and kicking myself in the butt for 10 years of not picking it up off the range floor.
Yeah, I don't have
Boy,
a
you lit him up quick,
clip,
Jason.
but I'm
Nice
definitely
job.
got brass.
Sorry, what was that, Sharenda?
I said I don't own a 45 yet, but I'm definitely collecting the brass. And when I catch the bullets on clearance, I've been buying up boxes.
Nice. That's
Well,
the
and
way-
I'll tell you honestly, I pick up brass even if it's something I don't reload, or even if it's something I don't shoot. I pick it up because I can scrap it, I can trade it, I can use it. I mean, I characterize myself as a brass orphanage. I take all the little orphans in, give them a home, and give them love. Except for 40 cal. 40 cal brass goes in the scrap bin always.
Oh, listen to him trying to start it up. Troll. Jeez.
Yeah, I keep everything because one advantage that some of the women may have over the men reloaders is that we can always craft that stuff. Even the 22s, I got a lady that likes to make key chains to pass out to people. Just take it. It's clean. Do whatever you
My wife
want.
used to make
I've got a box of 40 brass here. The recycling place doesn't even want to touch it.
You got to pay them to take it, huh? It's so bad.
What I do is I normally, when there's a pothole in town, I just go and I dump the 40 brass in the pothole just to try to help out the community.
Oh, you guys are brutal and mean. You don't know. You just don't know what you're missing. There's three 40 shooters and reloaders on here, and 2 of you are idiots. 6 people on here, so we'll figure it out who we're talking about.
Hey, all the grief I have to hear from y'all about my 2-wheel drive truck and the 330 Lapua, this is payback. Just sit back and enjoy it.
Oh, the truck that can't jump a puddle.
Mhm.
I've been thinking about this, Phil. You should get a 338 Lapua for the simple fact, if you get your 2-wheel drive stuck, you can jump in the bed and shoot your 338 and help you pop out of that whatever little mud hole you got.
Recoil driven.
Yeah.
Funny y'all are so concerned about my 2-wheel drive getting stuck in puddles. Is you have to get stuck a single time yet.
Or also carry around some 40 brass, so when you do get stuck on some, just some ice, you can dump that 40 brass under your tires and get some traction.
He doesn't know what ice is. He doesn't understand.
Oh, I
Yeah,
forget
did you
where
forget
he's
he's-
at.
No.
Yeah.
I know what ice is. It's the stuff I put in my drinks.
It's in his scope. Okay, so timeout. Back the train up. James Eviskij. Sorry, James. I slaughtered your last name. Posted in the chat. Johnny's reloading bench has a 50 starting, and how much it costs to start and how many rounds it takes to recover your costs. He said worthy of a shout out. Absolutely. Johnny's reloading bench is a great video series. It's kind of where I'd love our YouTube channel to be, but I don't have the time to be able to dedicate to that right now. So, but yeah, go and check it out. It's just the stuff they've got on there is amazing, and yeah, the video series is great. So, the nice thing about 40 is when the next panic takes over, 40 will be plentiful.
Oh yeah.
Even then, yes.
So,
Well, the thing is, too, law enforcement has pretty much adopted 40 as its caliber,
no, they're going back to 9.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's because
Certainly
They've
are mine.
seen the error in their ways. Yes.
That's why Classic Firearms right now has a G22 3rd gen on sale for $289. And if I had $300 laying around, I could use. I would get one.
Holy cheese,
Yeah,
that's
didn't
under
you get a really
$300.
good deal Didn't you get a really good deal, Mike, from Palmetto or somewhere on
I've got an
trade-in
I've
40
got
M&P?
Yeah, that one was $279. So
Y'all gonna be really disgusted by this, but a friend of mine recently picked up. I want to say he said it was an H&K in 40 cal. Got it for $250.
That's highway
Yeah.
robbery. But that's a great deal.
Yeah, I asked him if he at least bought the guy lunch, bought the guy dinner before he did that deal, and he said no. And I was like, you should feel bad about that. Like, I mean, completely took advantage of that deal. But yeah,
Did buy some chapstick.
I don't have any love for H&K. I bought one. I own one. I don't like it.
Yeah.
yeah. But the thing of it is that when you look at like used resale value, you could have bought the gun for $250 and flipped it for double profit the next day.
Gotcha.
That's why I was I don't own an HK, so I don't have a dog in this fight. But that was my comment to him, was like, "You got it for what?"
Heck, at that price,
Evidently, the seller didn't know what he had. Say again, Sharenda. I stepped over you.
I said at that price, I would have bought it too.
Yeah, we got that word while we were all at a prepper camp together, and I think 4 of us in unison all said, "Buy the damn thing."
Hey, Mike, go over to the YouTube chat. I like Paul's comment. Go check that one out. And another pro for reloading is not having to be reduced to 40 during shortages.
Oh, jeez. That was weak, Paul.
Paul, I thought you were one of the guys.
He is. That's why he's comfortable enough with his manhood to shoot 9mm.
Because we
Well,
have 4 I'm not going to say what I'm thinking. That's all I
Hey,
can.
no, here's an honest question though for you guys. Phil, would you rather shoot 40 or 380?
That was weak, Paul.
Paul, I thought you were one of the guys.
He is. That's why he's comfortable enough with his manhood to shoot 9mm.
Because we have 4 I'm
Somebody's
not going to say what I'm thinking. That's all I
Hey,
can say.
no, here's
Somebody
an
has
honest.
unmuted.
Yeah, Corinne,
Somebody needs to mute their YouTube.
yeah, sure. That went over the YouTube.
Anyway, 40 versus 380.
Yeah, what would you choose? I think I honestly would pick 40 at that point.
Depends. Are we talking about a subcompact little mouse gun, or are we talking about a full size?
I don't care.
Oh,
Just
right on the night, Phil. Just make a decision.
No, it makes a difference.
yes, it does make a difference. I dare anybody to get, I shoot 40, but I shoot it also in an SR9 or an SR40 from Ruger. I also shoot it in a Smith & Wesson M&P, which are full-size handguns. So the recoil isn't as bad. Because to be honest, 40 does kick. It does affect your follow-up shots. And if you don't have a decent firearm you're shooting it out of and you can't practice learning to control that recoil, it is not a good caliber. Bottom line. Especially when you're comparing it to 9, because 9's recoil is much less in comparable sized handguns. You don't have the problems with the follow-up shot.
The comparison I always give is this: like, I'm known for being a recoil junkie. Like, scare the heck out of it. Almost anybody just sounds like my cup of tea most days of the week. And I shoot 357 Magnum out of a 4-inch barrel with a smile on my face, full power, hot as hell loads, and I'm happy with that. I have shot those exact same rounds out of my dad's 2-inch snubby, and I'm going to tell you, I would not pick that as my go-to defensive gun. Like, I can handle it, I can control it, but I would rather have my friggin' airweight J-frame with 38 Special Plus Ps in it than a Magnum in that small of a handgun. So that's why I say, if you were talking about 40 cal in a full-size gun, give it to me all day. My 9mm is my preference for largely logistical reasons. But in a pocket gun, hell no, I don't want 40 cal. I want 9mm at the most, and maybe even down to 380. But the reason I stick to 9mm is because you can put 9mm in a pocket gun and it'll run. You can put 9mm in a full-size gun and it'll run. I can standardize on 9mm, and I can run most of the defensive guns in this house off the same 9mm loads.
Well, there's no getting
That's
around
that's
the fact
why I
that
baseline.
there's no getting around the fact that 9mm is universally available everywhere on the globe.
And it's a damn, I mean, especially with the advent of like modern bullet construction and modern bullet design, 9mm is a heck of a flexible round. I mean, 30 years ago, the idea that 9mm was a poodle shooter may have had a little bit of truth to it when you were talking about ball ammo. But with modern hollow point designs, that doesn't even, I don't even see that as part of the equation anymore. 9mm is absolutely a capable defensive round in its own right. But the difference between 9mm and 40 and some of your hotter rounds is I can put that same 9mm in a 9mm shield and it'll run just fine. And I can put it in a CZP09 and it runs great there too. But you get in some of the hotter rounds and they do not take well to these real small compact guns well.
So
Off my soapbox. Sorry, y'all got me started.
No, it's a good discussion. Well, Jason and I and Mike all think it's probably in a similar vein that 40 combines the best of 9 and 45 ACP. 45 ACP is large and slow, whereas 40 isn't all that small. It's let's face it, it's halfway between in bore diameter. It has a short length of the 9mm, and yet it's still got pretty much the same effectiveness as 45 ACP. Combines the best of both worlds. Yeah, it's a little snappy, but you put it in a steel frame gun, it'll work just fine.
Yeah, but that's why I kind of push back on Travis's question, because 40 cal in a subcompact to me is just
not
It's
a
a
good
bear.
idea.
And again, it comes back to that question of like, can I shoot it? Heck yeah, I can. I shoot full house 44 Magnum and it doesn't bother me that bad. But at a certain point, you have to admit it's going to be less effective for a full magazine than 9mm. Your follow-up shots will be slower. It becomes exceedingly difficult with snappier, higher recoil cartridges to manage a flinch. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why 9mm is like the go-to defensive cartridge for so many people. It is the Goldilocks.
Yeah, but
40 cal.
those issues can be overcome with training.
To a
That's
point.
the debate. That's a real good debate, because I'm going to tell you, I've talked to a lot of fire instructors that say that flinch can be overcome to a degree with training, but you shoot hot enough, long enough, you're going to flinch sooner or later.
Oh yeah.
You can push back the point at which you begin to flinch, but to say flinch can be overcome, that's like saying recoil can be 100% mitigated. It can't be. You can decrease it, you can redirect it, you can use compensators and low recoil ammunition, you can use great shooting technique, but recoil is recoil. It's physics. And flinch is psychology.
Jim, I've got
Sir.
a gun that will cause you to flinch. I don't care who you are. You will
500.
flinch.
Yeah.
500.
Yes,
Why
sir.
don't you sell it to Phil? Because I don't want it.
I just want to. I just want to try it once.
Oh, it's a kick in the pants.
I bet it's a kick everywhere else too.
How many times a year do you think you pull that out and shoot it?
Not this year at all. Oh, I take that back. Dusty wanted to shoot it, so I let him shoot. He probably shot 6 rounds through it.
That's about 5 more than most people get. No, honestly, when it comes to like big, bad butt kicking revolvers, I've kind of got a soft spot in my heart for 460. Just because you can shoot 45 Colt out of it, 454, 460 Magnum, you can. To me, that's almost a more appealing firearm to me than a 500, because I can shoot powder
Phil.
puff 45 Colt out of it.
Phil, 460, 500. Bigger. better, right?
When's the last time you shot? How many
Yep.
times this year have you shot that 500?
Me?
Yes.
None.
Okay.
But
If
it's
I
better.
can, but if I can buy, but if I can
500
buy one revolver and I can shoot everything from 45 long Colt up to 460 in it, then I can shoot the daggum thing.
But I have other guns to do that with.
I don't like buying other guns. I like to get
No,
guns that
There's
have lots of
nothing wrong with
utility.
your logic. Fix it. Buy other guns. Buy guns. Buy guns.
See,
Yeah,
my
Phil
son
Phil
guns
is
has
a
have
a
bean
figured out.
counter. He
so I
doesn't
don't
like
have-
spending money.
Look, I got a freaking young child, and she likes shiny stuff. Okay, my gun budget is very constricted most days.
Oh, see, there's your problem right there. Is you haven't convinced her that guns are shiny stuff. See, that's your problem right there.
7.
So what's
She's
your point?
into. She's not really into
You haven't
guns
been
just
bringing
yet.
that child up right. You haven't been bringing that child up right, Phil. Shame on you.
Yeah, you know what, my
I don't-
son, I got 4 kids, Phil. I don't want to hear anything about you having 1 kid. My son, he came down here to the reloading room yesterday. You know what he found as his toys? I have a bag full of old AR-15 grips. It's what the boy took upstairs, and that's what he's been playing with for the last since yesterday.
All the A2 hand grips that
A2
needed a
hand
home.
Yep. So you could get a little hair or something and put that on an A2 hand grip and tell her it's the new Barbie.
Wow.
You can get an AK grip and an AR, and they can.
Commingle?
Yeah, I don't
Go any
know.
further
This
than
conversation
Commingle.
is fair.
Wow, that went south quick.
I gotta point out how Mark Hookham's gonna love this episode.
Oh, Mark is going to hate us.
He hates us to begin with.
Who cares what Mark thinks?
Mark is never right.
Never.
But doesn't Mark have an audio clip of Jason admitting that Jim was right?
He photoshopped it.
Yeah.
He
It's all
fabricated it.
fake.
Photoshop doesn't work for audio. Jesus Christ, you old
Oh,
people.
it Well, then how did he do it?
Probably with Audacity.
There you go. That's one audacity. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't care what these guys say about you, Mark. I like you.
That's because
Oh,
you
and-
just don't want him to cut you out of the video.
Oh, and to Paul Loud, I do like to buy new guns. I just like to buy new guns that have multiple uses. That's why I like 357 so much. You can shoot 38 specials out of it too.
You can also shoot 38 S&W out of them.
Not that I have any particular
Well,
need
then
for
why
it,
don't
but
you have
sure.
something in three?
Say it again. You kind of blinked in and out.
That's because you started talking, and then I realized you started talking. So you like calibers that have you like guns that have multiple purposes. So why don't you own something in 327 Federal Magnum yet?
Because I want something in 460 first.
I think Phil's trying to say he likes He-Man guns as opposed to little kitty toys.
See, it's not machismo. I just like big bore Magnum revolvers that scare the hell out of me. You know, like rattle your eyeballs in your skull is just about a good starting point.
I think Phil lives by that motto: fear the man with one gun.
Mike,
Except
I
I
want to
don't
bring
own
up a
one.
point about the Lee loader. The Lee loader is a device that was used at one time, and it held the world's bench rest record. And the caliber it was used of choice was 222 Remington.
Remington,
That caliber
Remington.
also 22 Remington. 222 Remington, I'm sorry. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out that that's an interesting tidbit. Very accurate. That's one thing the lead loader is known for. It may be painfully slow. 20 rounds a night is pretty much about it. But you can get some very, very accurate ammunition out of that.
It's also a good piece of tooling to take with you to the range if you're working up on some loads.
Very good, Travis. Good point. You can reload it at the range.
I guess we
Yeah,
should get back to reloading stuff, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you, Travis, for the nice segue back.
Okay, so our actual first question of the night isn't necessarily a question, more of a comment. Greeting, gents and lady. I just finished listening to episode 269 and had a couple thoughts in regards to Travis's affection for written data. I have this thought. Digital is today's standard, and I research loads in dead tree manuals as well as online resources. However, I always keep my recipes in a reloader's logbook. Why? Let's answer by the way of illustration. My family has, in photo albums, pictures of great-grandparents and other family that I never knew. But old, yellowed, black and white photos are still around. They survived 2 world wars, the Depression, have been in attics and basements, and still look pretty good. Our digital goods can be gone in an instant with a lightning strike. Our backups can be gone due to degraded media, or our backups may no longer be readable because we don't have a device to read them. Floppy disks, zip drives, Jazz drive, LS120 super disk, laser disks. Or suppose file formats or file systems fall out of favor. Have you used Quattro or Lotus for spreadsheets? Could you even open those files today? At this point, saving data as a comma-separated values text file to the cloud seems sufficient, but tech companies do go out of business or spin off divisions to other companies that may jettison your files like Digital Flotsam. So I'm going with Travis on this one. It is a prudent approach, I believe, to write things down on paper. The written word, whether on paper, parchment, or stone tablets, Jim, clearly has a history on its side. As far as the reviewer recommending ditching the cartridge corner, I vote no. As a kook, keeper of odd knowledge, I find it interesting to hear about some of the lesser known cartridges that have come before and the parent cases of some of our mainstay cartridges and how the variant solved a particular shortcoming or improved performance for a specific or perceived need. Thank you guys for your education and mentoring. I don't use iTunes or Stitcher, but I gave you a review over on Podcast Republic where I get my podcasts. Regards, Richard.
Thank you, Richard. And I know I can't go to
Amen to
sleep
that.
without the adultery sounds of Jim Fleming putting me to sleep at night. So I'm for the cartridge corner.
That sounded more like a review.
Yeah, the only
Very
opinion
nice.
I'll
Thank
It
offer,
was more or less.
the only opinion I'll
What's that?
offer regarding the cartridge corner is that I could see the cartridge corner not being necessarily an every show kind of thing, but I wouldn't dismiss it totally because, quite frankly, some of the cartridges that we've talked about have been daggum interesting and things I've never heard of. So I guess my thought is, to kind of split the middle between one person saying ditch it and another person saying keep it. It doesn't necessarily have to be an every show feature.
By the way, Lyman T-Mag too. So that was Nick finally messaged me back.
Who
I guess
messaged
I'm
you
going to have
back?
to brush up on that.
Nick.
Wait, Nick, my Nick?
Sorry, Hooker.
Yeah. Jim, can you hear the rest of us? Because you're talking like you can't.
Do you smell toast, Jim? Is your arm going numb? Jim, he can't hear us.
Sorry, guys.
Don't go into the light. Sorry, Jim.
Nothing to apologize for. You're right. I was just trying to say that I guess I'm going to have to brush up on my narration skills.
For a minute there, Jim, we thought you went to the big reloading box in the sky.
That wasn't very nice.
Oh, you wouldn't respond to us.
Well, I do have bandwidth issues.
Okay.
And Mike, you said you reached out to Nick and he said it was a T-Mag? T-Mag 2.
So that would be a Lyman press.
I thought so, but I wasn't positive.
Well, you see, Lyman used to use the color orange, which is where I started when I started reloading, but then they moved over to gray. That's what confused me, because I know Mech also uses gray.
I thought it was a T-Mag 2, but I wouldn't have put money on it.
Mech uses black.
Boy, question number 2 is going to start a bar fight.
You want to read it for us, Phil? No, Mike's coughing. Go ahead, pick it up.
If someone's going to stir the pot, might as well be the Cajun, I guess.
You bet.
Curious, does anyone have a picture of a perfect crimp? I am adjusting my cedar die for 30-30 win and want to be sure to give enough crimp. How can I tell when I have enough crimp? Not enough crimp? I can mic the brass thickness, mic the bullet, and mic the outside diameter to figure out neck tension. But what is the ideal tension? I handle it for numerous bottlenecks, but the requirement of crimping is new to me. Scott C. 30-30 win. Is that a roll crimp or a taper? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
It should be a roll crimp. But that's what can only be done. A good roll crimp can only be done with the Lee factory crimp die or stab crimp.
Yep. If I'm going to take the first swing at this question, I'll go at it from the other direction because I think it's much easier to state what a perfect taper crimp is. And at least the way I do it, when I'm trying to set my crimp, when I'm trying to set my crimp, I'll seat a bullet and not crimp it. I'll measure the outside of the very, 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 very top of the neck. And then I will just run that die down a little bit at a time until I see like a 1 or a 2/1000 change in the top of the neck. Like just kiss the top of the neck with a taper crimp. And I've never felt the need to go any heavier than that on a taper crimp. Now, when it comes to a roll crimp, the reason I said this could turn into a bar fight is because there's opinions involved. Perfect for what?
Okay. So here's the bottom line. There is no such thing as a perfect crimp. It's bottom line. There is no such thing as a perfect crimp. Because every crimp is going to be different depending on what the purpose is. My 9mm, the crimp is only to get the bell of the case out. That's it. Nothing else. So this 308, which is a dummy round, but like a dummy, I forgot to punch the primer, has a crimp on it.
That's a factory crimp.
Now, some would say that's too heavy of a crimp. That is a Lee factory crimp die because this is 308 Winchester. Some would say that's too heavy of a crimp, especially considering it's not sitting on a cantilever, because people will say that I just mashed the bullet and that's going to affect ballistics downrange. At 100 yards, it probably won't. 200, it probably still wouldn't. Beyond that, it would. So, but there are people that would say that's a lousy crimp because it's over crimped.
It depends.
So I know what you guys' opinions on crimping, but Sharinda, do you crimp your 223?
I do, but not as dramatic as that crimp was. I mean, I haven't had any problems with the crimp that I use, so
your projectiles, do they have a cantilever?
Some do, because I've been playing around with them. So I've done a batch that did and a batch that didn't. But I'm shooting indoors with it, so I couldn't really notice much of a difference.
Oh. Yeah, my opinion, when it has a cantilure, you crimp. When it doesn't, you don't.
See, I go at this a different direction though, because regardless of whether or not in rifle ammo, regardless of whether or not I have a cantilure or not, I do put a very, very, very mild taper crimp on those rounds. Again, like 1,000th or 2 change in the neck, just enough to make sure I take any little bit of flare that's remaining out of the case, and that's going on the light end. Most of what I load for rifle though is well, I mean, like in my 308, it's match bullets, so I'm going very light on the crimp intentionally in a bolt action. But even in my 5.56, I don't crimp really aggressively. The one place I crimp very aggressively, and this might be more applicable to 30-30 because it uses a roll crimp, is in revolver ammo. I do crimp 357 Magnum fairly substantially, which a lot of guys that shoot big bore Magnum revolvers, they do tend to crimp much more aggressively, but it's a roll crimp. It's there to make sure the bullet doesn't pop out of the neck and jam the gun up. There are reasons for it.
Mhm.
Like I guess my whole thought process on like the perfect crimp, or even for somebody to say what is an appropriate crimp, it depends. There's some opinion involved, and there's a lot of like what specifically are you trying to do? That what is the reason for the crimp? Because crimp serves multiple purposes depending on the cartridge you're talking about. It's either there to make sure that there's no remaining flare in the neck to ensure good feeding into the chamber, and it's also there for bullet retention, depending on the cartridge. And depending on the cartridge and whether you're talking about a taper or roll crimp, it's going to dictate how heavily or how lightly you crimp. So,
yeah, I guess on my 9mm, I do put a very slight taper crimp just for exactly what you're talking about.
Yep. Every semi-auto pistol cartridge I load gets just a kiss with the crimp. Same with 5.56. Very, very little with 308 Winchester. And like I said, at least in mine, 38 Special, 307 Magnum, those are the 2 cartridges I crimp fairly aggressively. But I've never touched 30-30 Win, but the fact that it has a roll crimp, I would tend to kind of put that more in the realm of you probably need to have a fairly substantial crimp on it, assuming you have a cantilure groove. Treat it like a Magnum revolver cartridge from that perspective. And I only say that because it has a roll crimp, so that's where I would go. But opinions vary.
So I'm gonna tell you guys, I got a reloading fail for you that I did. So I keep my 9mm brass in a big tote and 5-gallon buckets. I had one of the totes fully processed, okay, all sized. So unbeknownst to me, I have been dumping into that some just clean brass, not sized, and it got all mixed up. So when I was processing this last batch of brass, I went to load a bunch, and I used like a big scoop all my brass. So I was loading up into the hopper, and I check all my ammo. Some of them weren't going into the case gauge, and I thought maybe my die backed off and the crimp wasn't, given like just like you said, Phil, taking out that slight bit of flaring on that. No, I had been dumping in unsized brass. So I had a mixture of unsized 9mm brass that I was loading. I noticed projectiles just dropping into the cases, and that's what started catching my attention. So pro tip is keep better track of your processed and unprocessed brass, because now I gotta go back through a whole giant tote of 9mm brass, and I'm just gonna go back and resize it all.
Yep.
Yeah, and just as an anecdote about crimp and the importance of crimp, when I was first getting started, I had a heck of a time getting my 45 ACP reloads to feed consistently into my 1911. That had never had a problem with factory ammo ever in all the years I've been shooting factory ammo. And as soon as I started putting a very mild taper crimp on those cartridges, the ammunition got a lot more reliable all of a sudden. Like the specific failure I was having was that it would feed and the gun would stop a quarter inch short of going into battery. Like to the point where most of the time you could just use the heel of your hand and kind of tap the back of the slide and it'd jump into battery and fire fine. But that was the reason. It was because it wasn't crimped and it was hanging up in that last little bit of the chamber. As soon as I started crimping it, it started behaving itself a lot better. So don't underestimate the importance of crimp. Again, depends on what you're doing with it. What is the reason for the crimp in your particular case?
Well, the firefight wasn't too bad.
No,
The
but
one thing I've got to say about crimping 30-30 is don't over crimp. Go, if anything, err on the side of caution, is because the first thing will happen is when you over crimp is your shoulders will buckle. They will they will buckle out at the shoulder. You won't be able to chamber it in your lever gun or
Good
bolt
point.
gun. There's not many bolt guns. But that's how you know you've over crimped is when a thing. Check your diameters and all that. Your sizes at the shoulder after you're done crimping your ammo. If it's bigger than factory spec, your crimp is too heavy.
I don't think I actually have those cases anymore. I probably threw them in the scrap bin, but I have some 38 special brass from when I first started, and I didn't have my brass, my dies adjusted quite properly, and I have a couple that have literally accordioned. Like the very center of the case ballooned out and the case crushed down because I got really aggressive with the crimp. But that was also because I was seating the bullet and crimping in the same step. So what would happen is the bullet would come down into the case would crimp around the bullet, and then the ram kept coming up, and the middle of the brass just went.
Nice Weatherby cartridge, Mike. Hey, Mike, that's a nice Weatherby cartridge. You've got the shoulder pushed down inside the body of the case.
I've done one of those too. That's one of those new Iceland improved cartridges, right? It looks like a Wildcat.
Yeah, it's bigger at the shoulder than it is web. Yeah, it's a Wildcat cartridge, all right.
That's how you learn.
Yep. No,
That's
that was
one way.
die not set right. So, but I keep that for that purpose of showing it. So
Makes a good illustration.
and this one, I don't think I'm getting the bell out of that.
No. He rolled the case
crimp is going to
outward.
bring that bell back.
You know, I mean, I've heard you guys that reload shotgun cartridges like to crimp the case and everything shut at the end, but I don't think it works like that for metallic. Just saying.
Actually, it can. You can load shot shells and crimp the end for handguns.
All the way shut like you would a normal hole in a wad and all that?
Yeah.
Come think of it, yeah, I have seen it done with people making like snake shot.
Yeah, they work great on snakes and rats and pigeons, and unfortunately the DNR won't use with them. But
no, I'm drawing a blank because there's somebody in the reloading room that, like, for a while was doing a lot of that, making their own snake shot, rat shot, and everything. Oh, it's killing me. I can't remember who it was.
there's a couple of the admins that do it.
Swampy.
There's
It
a couple of
probably
the
is.
admins that do it. Yeah. So,
And I think you put moonshine in there too.
He would.
Nothing wrong with that.
He puts moonshine in the reloader.
Well, yeah, that's what you normally do. You just put moonshine in the
lubrication.
reloader, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got to lubricate, keep the joints well lubricated.
right.
with 195 proof.
Nothing wrong with that. I don't know why your screen's locked on, Jim.
Mine is too.
Because you're special. That's why.
Mine's not.
Yeah, now we're fixed.
Yep.
Huh?
Well, you've all got kick buttons.
What does that mean, Jim? Kick
Am I
button.
the only one? Running
Mike, you froze. What did you say?
Yeah, I don't see the kick button you speak of.
Let's see here.
I was about to tell her where it was, and then I don't know if I want to relate that information.
3 dots, upper right corner.
No,
3 dots.
Sharinda,
upper
go.
right corner.
Yeah, Sharinda, try it out. Go on Jim's and hit those 3 dots, and let's see if it works.
Okay, it does say kick out.
Yeah, there's also a mute button, which we like a lot.
Good to know.
Mike froze up again.
I'm glad I'm not the only one having technical difficulties.
Well, that's why I'm blacked out, because I don't have the bandwidth to put video up.
He broke his camera. Well, if Mike's gone, that's horrible for us. He's the glue that holds us together, guys.
Well, he's the one that keeps all these squirrels in one spot. He's the cat wrangler.
Meow.
Or the cat herder.
Don't ever do that again, Jason.
MT Iceland is having connectivity issues. Don't worry, Chris. The kick button doesn't work for all you in the YouTube chat. It only works for all of us that are on the host side of things. We might have lost Mike.
No, he's there.
No, it's gray. His connection's gray. That means he's lost connection.
No, he's there. It's just showing a bad connection.
He can hear us.
Okay, he's still there. Good.
Talk crap about him.
I see we have.
I would never do that.
Join the YouTube chat too.
No.
So, Sharinda, will you remind me what all you reload?
9, 45, 223, and 243 so far.
What you said earlier you shoot indoors.
Yes.
So are you shooting? So what do you have the 243 for? Do you?
I hunt.
I remember you said. Okay, I remember you said you did go hunting. That's right.
Yes, I hunt.
And where do you live again?
I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, the land of nowhere to hunt close by.
Well put. Out in the show
You
me
should
state.
come on out to Idaho. You can hunt out here all the time. It's good land out here.
I'm working on it. Eventually, I know it's not cost effective, but eventually I'm gonna reload 12 gauge too, just because I can.
Well,
Now,
I reload
remember-
12 gauge and Mike reloads 12 gauge. And I think both of us agree that it's worth it.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah,
We hear
yeah,
you.
we can hear you, Mike.
We hear you.
Sharenda, you got to realize when you're loading 12 gauge, you're not loading that 100 pack bulk at Walmart. You're loading AA or STS or trap.
Oh yeah, I shoot
So
clay, so I definitely have felt the difference and seen the difference.
Yeah, I remember the podcast I listened to today. You were talking about picking up a Mech 600 or something.
Yeah, as soon as trying to see if Santa Claus is gonna bring me one this year. The Easter Bunny is usually good to me.
You should ask Santa for a Mech 9000.
A Mech 9000.
Yeah,
Oh, I did ask Santa for a new shotgun, so I might push it with the 9000.
you'd be very happy if you got the 9000 though.
I have looked at that one. I didn't look at the price because 9,000 to me translated to is probably close to $9,000. I'm kidding on that, but close enough.
No, it's basically just a progressive shot shell press.
What's the price on that, Travis?
I honestly don't remember. I had one.
700 or 800, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, it's between 750 and 800. I actually learned on one of those too. I just didn't think to look up the price because I was thinking progressive.
I really live by buy once, cry once.
Depends on how much you're planning on shooting. If you're going to join a trap league, then it's worth it to get a progressive. But if you're just plinking around and you're doing hunting loads and you're looking at, occasionally shooting trap, honestly, a progressive is not going to be worth it. So,
Oh no,
Yeah.
the Sporting Clay League.
What's that?
I said, oh no, I'm on the Sporting Clay League.
Yeah, then you're going to probably want a progressive.
Okay.
Because a single stage, just you can load with it, but it'll take you a while. So
how'd you meet up with Jim? Because you obviously reload and shoot way more than he does.
And the reload room on Facebook.
Actually, Travis, the story goes, she had put a like on one of my postings, the one posting I put up every week. And I thought, who in the world is Sharenda Burtz? So I followed the link out to her timeline, and here she's a reloading lady. She's had some connection with Ogden and all that sort of thing. And I just went, oh my God, a reloading woman. We found a unicorn, guys. And I immediately, she had made her reloading postings. She made them public. And because of that, I was able to comment and so on and so forth. And I just simply followed up, and Sharenda and I seemed to hit it off well. And I finally asked her permission to send her a private message. We discussed a few things, and we decided to create the women's group that we've talked about on the last show she was on. And then that's, things just went from bad to worse. And now she's corrupted my morals totally. I actually created a women-only reloading group. Yeah, I know. How does that work, Jim? You're not female. Well, I'm not a member. I'm an admin. I created the group. If I have to, I can fall back on that excuse. But anyway, no, Sharenda's been very pleasant, very, very professional, and very interested. And you know what, guys? That's the one niche we need to take and work towards more, is that's getting the females involved in our craft. A lot of us are wise out on. Well, go ahead, Travis.
I just sent you a friend request on Facebook, Sharenda.
I will grab it.
I do like these Tiffany blue 125 grain.
Oh, here we go, Phil.
You got on
here we go.
No, all my guns are black, but my bullets, I was like, I'm gonna have a little fun with this. And I have another demo and I'm doing next month, and I figured, you know what, I'll just get some color ones so the ladies can see that they can take it a step further when they're reloading too.
So are you into powder coating?
I am now.
Okay. I like you even more now.
As a matter of fact, the person that got me introduced to powder coated bullets is actually on the YouTube channel, Chico Wise. He customized me some purple ones, and I was hooked ever since.
Yeah, I cast my own and I powder coat my own, and I'm hooked on it.
Yeah, he does the same too, and I stalk him on Instagram.
You guys and your candy coated bullets.
You're just too old school, Jim.
Well, you know, if the ladies, like, I actually have a few ladies now that got the link from me where I ordered them from. If the ladies they like it and it makes them buy more, then I'm all for the girly girl stuff. Other than that, I just need a machine.
Amen.
Hey, depending on when you're shooting, pink bullets can be fun because you can watch them track down the range. So there.
Aren't those called
That
trees?
I did. Yeah.
Not tracer rounds.
Yeah,
Depends
powder
what you're
coat. Powder
If you're
coat.
shooting subsonic.
Mike, you should powder coat a 1 ounce slug, and shoot
I've
that
got
at a. Okay, yeah, you can definitely see those traveling down.
Yeah. Speaking of shotguns, Shrenda, we actually have a 600 Junior sitting around. If you're serious, since you're joining us and hanging out with us a lot of time now, I'll be happy to ship it down to you, and you can start playing around with shot shell.
Are you serious? Don't play with my emotions.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Oh,
I'm not lying.
Okay,
I'm serious.
Here comes my sailor mouth. Oh yes.
And then, so the 9000G is $650 at Ballistic Products, and then the Hornady 366, which is over there now, is $749. The nice thing about those two is they're ready to go out of the box. They operate a little differently, and you can get different bells and whistles to put on them. So, and then I wanted to check
accessories. So a guy named Sean asked the question, is it possible to powder coat with glow in the dark?
I have not seen glow in the dark powder coat.
Yes, it is possible. However, there your problem's going to be getting them activated. So, you know, it may. There is some glow in the dark stuff out there. I don't remember where I saw it.
I know there's the glow in the dark paint and like glow in the dark fingernail polish, but I haven't seen glow in the dark powder coat. But yes, like what Mike's saying is, you know, usually you got to expose that to light so it can kind of absorb the UV rays or whatever it does. I don't see why it wouldn't work if they have glow in the dark powder coat. I don't see any reason it wouldn't work.
The problem you run into is usually, there we go. All right, so this is from Technoglow, glow in the dark powder coating. If you ever want to take your motorcycle or bicycle to the next level, you should think about purchasing some glow in the dark powder coating, which can be found right here. So, it says use white or light color as a substrate primer to get best results. And then, so yeah, it's actually designed because more of the problems that you would run into with your typical stuff is most of your regular glow in the dark stuff when you heat it to cure the powder coating, probably would be affected. But this is legit powder coat, so it's designed to handle that heat because they know it's going to. So
I'm about to ask a stupid question because this one can be classified as stupid.
the only stupid question is the one that doesn't get asked.
I'm thinking though, if you did get the glow in the dark powder coat, how many of you guys actually have UV lights? I'm pretty sure all of you guys probably have UV lights.
Nope.
Why would you say? Why do you say that?
I'm trying to figure out how I can sugarcoat this one.
We look like a bunch of UV black light guys. I don't know. That sounds kind of awkward.
Well, I'm thinking some of y'all may have do some shooting in the dark type glow light deal, but I hate to admit I actually have a UV light. But that's because I have plants, and so I'm not in a real sunny section where they're at, so I have the UV light on for them.
The one thing that would work for charging is just like your glow-in-the-dark jigs and fishing stuff, because those are a lot of the time those are powder coated too. And so if you go to like Cabela's or Gander, or well, not Gander because the owner of Gander doesn't like people that like guns. But you go to Cabela's or Bass Pro or some of your Flint Stream and some of your other places that sell a lot of fishing stuff. Usually probably your local places are going to be the better place to go. But they've got little, almost like a squeeze light that is a little UV light for charging up glow in the dark. And I think Tread might have mentioned what you were trying to get to there, Sharenda, in the chat. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. I don't know. I guess it would depend on what you were, what caliber and at what speed you were shooting, on whether it would be worth it or not. Because if it's moving at supersonic, your eye may not pick it up. Although it may look freaking sweet too. So
I was gonna say, for Halloween being around the corner, that's what I'm picturing. Just kind of being something cool for that.
Yeah,
I was
There's
thinking
no real purpose to it.
That's what I was thinking, because I also like shooting Dragon's Breath just for no reason absolutely at all other than it looks cool.
Yeah.
What other reason do you require?
Just because it looks cool.
That's perfectly acceptable.
Haven't heard that in a long time.
What, Dragon's Breath?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I went out on a hunt, and Midway USA sells them regularly because I really wanted to do it myself.
So Loads came up with a good idea. Jason's exiting, so he's had a long day. So good night. Looks like we're about to wrap up soon anyway, but yeah, we're losing a couple of you in the chat too. So but Loads said a case full of H110 makes a big enough ball of fire that they may charge up the glow in the dark. So that's a nice thought.
I can attest to that.
I thought of that too. You guys were going on pretty good.
Yeah. Loads of Bacon wants to know, Jim, can he put some of that glow in the dark powder in the tumble lube with the ALOX?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
No, I did have a thought. You guys do have an interesting point about your powder coat. If you powder coat it in such a way that you color that will show up in bright light, such as fire engine red, Travis, I'd be interested in that to actually see where your projectiles go. I've seen time when I've had the sun over my right shoulder, and you can actually see your bullets go. And boy, they fly like wild streaks.
Hey, Sharinda, I also looks like a bunch of people are going over to your Instagram. I went over there too, and I sent you a message, so make sure you go look at that when you get a chance.
Okay, and I apologize for the coffee overload ahead of time.
Nothing wrong with coffee. So, all right, gang. Well, definitely some good conversation tonight. Some off the rails conversation, but over in all, a great show. We will see you all here again next week. But in the meantime, want to take time. What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
All right. But in the meantime, I want to take time to thank everybody who sends us emails, everybody who's given, speaking of emails, we've got a bunch of emails in and a bunch of reviews. Most of them positive. There was a couple of them that did agree with the one gentleman from 269 that we do screw around a little too much. So,
you know what? But the truth is, Mike, if the viewers look at it this way, if it's not fun for us, we probably wouldn't continue to do this, right?
Right.
So it's a little bit of entertainment for us too.
There you go.
Yep.
I do this because I love it. I don't do it because I'm making money from it. I haven't made a dime.
Right.
I've spent a hell of a lot of money.
Exactly.
Yeah, you guys have actually cost me more money.
Yeah, she's right. If anything, this podcast costs us and others money. Yeah.
Yes,
That's a
indeed.
fact.
So, but I want to thank everybody that does send the feedback. We do take it all, and we take it all in stride. So, and you know, we've made some changes to the show in the past based on some of the feedback. So, but yeah, I mean, somebody asked me once what this was like, and I said it's like you went to the corner bar and you sat around with 4 or 5 or 6 of your best friends talking about reloading all night. So, I mean, that's kind of the best way to describe this. Is that's the way it is. So,
Excellent analogy, Mike.
And I actually won't be available next week because I have a USPSA, or whatever the acronyms are, competition shoot.
that'll be fun.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you
I'll
do that.
second
That's yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
My goal is next summer to do some competitive shooting. So, but we'll see.
What pistol are you going to be shooting at the USPSA?
A 9mm.
I have SIG.
Sorry, you said a CZSP 10 what?
No, a SIG P320 full size.
Okay, all right.
So, that email address is reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. It's also listed in the show notes. I'll update the show notes with Sharonda's contact info as well. You can find the show notes at firearmsradio.tv/reloading-podcast. You can also leave comments there. You can also find the full listing of all the episodes. So, there, if you want to go back to the backlogs. So, also want to thank all of our Patreons, both past and present. We've added a couple of new ones, and we just grateful and had one that joined back up. So we just greatly appreciate all of them. They make everything that we do possible. So, and on that note, keep your brass shiny. Travis.
I gotta unmute. Sorry. Get out and try some powder coating. Forget the ALOX.
I'm gonna step all over him this one time and say, teach somebody how to reload. I just did it for a weekend, and there's no more rewarding experience than passing along knowledge to somebody else.
Thank you, Phil. I've been doing it since 1971.
I pick
That's
on
when I
Jim
joined
all
the
the
military.
time. Yeah, I pick on Jim all the time, but he is exactly one of the most influential things for reloading in my life. Him and the old squeaky chair.
I have to agree.
Wow.
Speaking of the old squeaky chair,
That is exactly what it sounded like.
There's a little history here, Sharenda. I'll give it to you after we get off the air.
All right.
But anyway, Sharenda, do you have a tagline you'd like to put out there, ma'am?
No, I haven't thought about a tagline yet other than reload and enjoy.
That works.
I have to,
Join the group Women Reload 2! Exclamation point.
Oh yes, join the group Women Reload 2! Exclamation point. Sorry, no guys allowed.
And you know what? Teach somebody to reload. Take somebody shooting. Join the National Rifle Association.
All right, everyone. Have a great night. Thanks.
Night.
good night, everybody.
Good night, all.
Good night, John Boy.